This week you're doing a civil drawing, actually a site survey, site plan for a house. It's pretty simple, but most residential survey plans are pretty simple. Do read the chapter in the textbook about civil bearings and courses and the units, because it's different. We use a bearing to determine direction of a property line. And it's quite different than most things, unless you have been exposed to surveying and civil drafting. It'd be different than anything else you've ever run across. So kind of read that to understand. And basically what it means is it's like this line here, the bearing, the direction for that line is north 5 degrees and this many minutes and seconds to the west of north. That's the direction of the line. You think of your directions of the compass being in a quadrant, whereas this one right here is south on the eastern side of south, okay? So it's a little bit confusing, but if you look at the example in the textbook, kind of read through that, you'll get an understanding for it. The template I'm providing you in Blackboard, I've already created the layers. I've created the layers for you, and I've created all the dimension styles and the text styles. I do recommend that you go through and check them. I'm pretty sure I got them right, but I would recommend that you open each of them up and check them. And the reason we have these different dimension styles is that we're setting it up so that this one there'd be no arrow, excuse me, no arrowheads, no dimension lines, and the text precision is 0 decimal places, and then there's 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places, then we have a 2 decimal place with arrows, and then we have 0 decimal places with arrows. And when you look at the way the drawing is dimensioned, you'll see the reason for all of those. So it's pretty simple to follow through with the textbook. Let's see, the line type scale, I'm pretty sure I set that. Yeah, I set line type scale at 18 already, like the book showed you. So follow through the first few pages of the exercise and just check and make sure that I've got things set correctly. And then you start drawing. Now when you draw the lines, it's there in step 8, it says turn off your dynamic input. That way you can just type in the distance and the bearing. And you're going to be typing in the bearing. And to do so, let's start a line command. And it gives you an absolute value to start that at. And I'm not going to start it at that same point. I'm going to start it over here. Okay, but see, I got my dynamic input turned on. So I'm going to turn that off. And I put in that, I'm on a layer that's turned off, sorry. Turn off my ortho mode. Okay, and then it tells you to start it at an absolute coordinate and then give it relative distance and bearing. So you're going to type it just like it shows it in the textbook. So I'll go at 152.01 and then use the less than symbol on the keyboard. So it'll be shift comma, and that gives you an angle, and then you're going to type the angle in just as it's written in the book. North 5 degrees, so north 5 lowercase d 14 apostrophe and then 13 double quote, and then uppercase W for west. If you look in the video, it may be kind of hard to see, but if you look in the video down here in my command line, you see where I was typing that. And you just press enter. And then that draws your first line. And you just keep it going through there. And yes, those lines probably will not close exactly. Okay, and that's okay. Because in survey work, it may close, it may not close. When you're surveying over hundreds or thousands of feet, you may be off a few inches. However, the surveyors can calculate that, and they can put in their degree of of error, and they mark that on the drawing, so it's not that big of a deal. You'll do offsets on the construction layer to place the house, and then some property lines and things. Use the same way with the trees. Use the offset command to create some construction lines for the location of the trees. And then when you place the trees, I found this in this template that the publisher provided. The palm tree was a metric sized tree. And if you insert that, look how big it is. Okay, but then when we look at it in the properties, it's already scaled down by 0.04. Okay, so don't use the one that came with the template. Use the one in the design center. Open up your design center, and it's ADC on the keyboard. And then if you go into dynamic blocks, go into dynamic block, and if it's not showing up here, click on folders. Okay, it should take you to the sample English US. Go dynamic blocks, architectural imperial, and it's this one right here. And so click and drag it in, and yes, it's big also, but what we'll do is we'll scale it down at 0.15. And so you select it, go to properties, and right here in the XYZ scale, just type in 0.15 in each of those blocks. Okay, and that will scale it down. Now this one is the palm tree, and since it's a dynamic block, if you come down here in custom, you can view, you can have a plan view, an elevation view, a shrub, or multiple types of trees. Okay, because it's a dynamic block. Okay, and there wasn't a palm tree in the regular design center. Okay, and so that scaled it down to about the right size. So you can place that, like I said, the palm trees, I scaled them at 0.15. The elm tree up here, I scaled it at 0.10. And I think that one was just a regular block. I may have used a dynamic one, I don't know. Okay. And so that gets your trees and plantings. Now your dimensioning, you're going to change dimension styles based on whatever you're dimensioning. And the house here is not that big a deal. It's all vertical and horizontal lines, but everything else is at an angle. So what you need to do is in your object snaps, turn on perpendicular. Okay, and you may have to turn on and off your object snaps in order to get what you're wanting. And so, well, I'll show you. Okay, I'll show you over here on the corner. Come on. I'm going to do it on the 0 layer. I don't know what that was. Okay. I'm going to go to the 0 layer. And most of these, you're going to use aligned dimensions. Now, the house, you can use the linear dimensions because that's all, straight up and down. And so we see that this one is 2 decimal places, but it has the arrows. So we want to change our dimension style to mortgage 2 decimal place arrows. Now, if you choose align dimension and pick a known corner first, and then come out, and you want to get your perpendicular object snap. And if it's not showing up, you can type, at this point, you can type PERP on the keyboard and hit enter, and that will bring up that snap. And so you can click it and then drag it out. Okay. But you need to place it so that it's like right at the corners. Okay, and it's perpendicular to the property lines. Now, a good way to do these things, especially, well, you could do it on the house. You can do it on the property lines, is if you go align dimension, and in your options is specify first extension line origin or select the object. So if I press enter on the keyboard, now I can just click my line, and then that gives me, excuse me, that gives me the dimension. And I don't have to zoom up and pick corners. Okay, and so I could have done that with the house. So I could use my dim align command with the house, and that way I'm just picking on the lines. Okay, and so that's kind of a quick way to do that. And when you're dimensioning the trees, you'll need to place your dimension and then adjust your text so that it's inside the tree, outside the tree, whatever. I think that covers a lot of the stuff we're dealing with. The north symbol is a block that came with the drawing, so you just click that and place it. The stakes, they go in there. They're blocks that came with the drawing. And what the stakes are, and you see they're located here at the corners. Anytime they survey a piece of property, most of the time they will mark the corners with an iron rod. So this was saying that they found 3 of them when they did the survey, and then they set the 4th one in place. And so you'll have to kind of adjust the location of your symbols in your legend. You'll need to come over here to paper space and activate your model space, set your scale, and then pan to get your drawing centered up. Once you get it centered up, make sure your scale set, and then lock it in place, and then edit your title bar. And so that's what it looks like. It's a little bit different project from anything you've worked on so far. But it should be it's a nice way to kind of finish out the last week of the semester. So if you got questions or problems, send me an email or come by the lab to see us, and we'll help you get it figured out.